Last week I watched Zelensky in the White House. What an undignified mess. I don't think anyone came out of it well. I watch one news story and they tell me that Trump and Vance mugged Zelensky. I watch another opinion and I hear that he's an ungrateful cur. But really, I struggle to find anyone who came well out of this. The way they treated him was uncomfortable at best, and the way he reacted really did not show him in a good light. Don't take my opinion, ignore all the opinion makers and the opinionated on this. Watch his body language, watch what he said. If you go to the White House wearing a t-shirt and tracksuit pants, and instead of signing a deal that you've negotiated, you get into an argument where you start saying that America's ocean isn't going to protect it, and you haven't been to Ukraine, and refusing to say thank you. Now, the thank you point, the truth is that Europe has lent a lot of money. We've given a lot of money to Ukraine, but most of it is coming back with interest if they're ever able to. Whereas the Americans have gifted 200 million. And it is a fair question to ask, where did the 58% go that can't be accounted for? Does it explain how wealthy some American politicians are? Have some businesses been cutting their cloth from public money? And we're talking to the tune of billions of misappropriated assets? Or are there some of the elite in Ukraine who've done well out of this war? We do have to face that Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. And some money has disappeared here. Now, I don't like the way they spoke to him, but I also think that Zelensky came out of this very badly. Now, how much we want to cover it up, we like to have a patron saint figure. Remember Cory Aquino? She was this wonderful woman who defeated the dictator Marcos. What about the fact that he was elected, or what about the fact that he was fully supported by America and effectively Britain for decades? And suddenly they found another friend. What about the fact that she wasn't even in the country when the revolution happened? What about the money she had? She wasn't the saint they made her out to be. Or what about the lady in Myanmar? Oh, she was wonderful. We had her speak to Parliament. She was the patron saint of godliness. Until there was a problem with arguments between Muslims and Buddhists, and we soon found out that her appetite for being fair-handed and equal and protecting human rights didn't extend as far as we'd always claimed. We don't really mention her anymore. We didn't accept that this Nobel Peace Prizing patron saint of peace and human rights supported murder. We muttered that for a few weeks and then we just never mentioned her again. Well, Zelensky, I think he's a good guy. I hope he's a good guy. But sitting in the White House, cursing in Ukrainian under your breath, raising your voice, and getting into a shouting argument is not a very good look. So frankly, I think badly of all three of them after that show. That show would have been best kept in private. And by no means do I think Zelensky was faultless in that argument. And by no means do I think that Trump and Vance needed to go as far as they did. I'm sure there have been plenty of arguments like this in the White House. I'm sure there have been plenty of arguments like this in the Oval Office, but not in front of the press. And at the end of the day, the whip hand and the checkbook is with the Americans. So Zelensky would do very well to bite his tongue next time. And Europe would do well to not encourage him. To say, well, we'll bring you and show you the king and you can go to Sandringham, but should we cancel the invitation to Donald Trump? Well, the only person who's actually made an effort to have peace, rather than to prevent Ukraine failing, seems to have been Macron, who didn't get very far, and Trump, who seems to be getting people round tables. I know we'd like the Ukrainians to be at that first table meeting with Putin, but we have to be realistic that Putin isn't going to lose this war, and we don't want him to win it. So we have to bring a peace where he doesn't win it. And at the same time, we're not maintaining the meat grinder for some people's benefit.